Now, let me be clear. You should subscribe to Scratch and totally become a member to get exclusive early access to videos. If you want to debate, you should join the Discord.
I agree with you.
Correct.
ICE can do warrantless arrest. They just need probable cause to do it, but they're doing it with reasonable suspicion, and they've said that. So if we know, and I can read the statement from the Supreme Court out to you, that reasonable suspicion can only be used to stop people, right? And we also know from DHS's own statements from their press release that they are using, right, reasonable suspicion to make arrests, then we can, without the help of an attorney, already make the statement that they're violating the Fourth Amendment. Yeah, what?
So, I mean, I'm reading right here from ICE, Administrative Removal Warrants, MP3, Federal Law Enforcement Training Centers. You can go on their website, .gov, where they specifically talk about the Fourth Amendment. And it clearly reads here, in our Fourth Amendment legal training, we cover issues regarding the level of suspicion required to obtain an arrest warrant or a search warrant. This basic Fourth Amendment training, however, is focused on the criminal warrants issued by a judicial officer, typically a magistrate judge. ICE basic students are ultimately being trained to perform ICE enforcement functions that, most often, do not involve judicially issued warrants. So there's a difference here between a judicial warrant, which is a court order signed by a judge authorizing law enforcement to enter private property or make arrests, and an administrative warrant here also. And I'm reading from
Matt, you're confused. That's not the argument.
No, Scratch.
So
okay.
Matt,
yeah,
so
I was going to say he's actually right.
Matt's confused.
Yeah, you're right,
Matt,
but that's
so
not
Matt,
the argument.
yeah, that's the argument. The argument is about arrests without warrants. I'm talking. That's a separate issue, which we can talk about later. I'm talking about when ICE is making warrantless arrests, which they're allowed to do under the INA. But to make this warrantless, they need probable cause, but they're doing it only using reasonable suspicion. So
okay, where are you getting that from specifically?
So I'm getting.
And when you're saying warrants, like a warrant under what? Like I want to get.
I'm
like,
not talking about warrants. I'm talking about warrantless arrests. Arrests without warrants.
Okay, arrest without warrants. Okay, and you're saying it's based off of pure reasonable suspicion, and that's not like allowed according to what decision specifically?
According to Kristi Noem, Secretary of State v. Pedro Van Suisse, and it says, let me find it specifically.
Perdomo?
Perdomo. I think that's how you say it. Individual.
I mean, Perdomo Vasquez or Vasquez.
Pronounced
Yeah, it's not a
Vasquez.
hard name to pronounce. It's not really that hard.
I'm not. I speak
You
normal.
live too
okay?
far away from the border, man.
Yeah, bro.
Hold on.
This is Supreme Court, right? Yeah,
Yes.
It looks like it. That's just a dissent. I'm so bad at reading court docs. I'm so much more used to reading scientific papers.
Again.
Here, under the court's precedents, no mention of common sense. Those circumstances taken together can constitute least reasonable suspicion of legal presence in the United States. Importantly, reasonable suspicion means only that immigration officers may briefly stop the individual, inquire about immigration status. If the person is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawful in the United States, that individual may be free to go after the brief encounter. And that's on page 6.
Okay, importantly, reasonable suspicion means only that immigration officers may briefly stop the individual and inquire about immigration status. If the person is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, that individual will be free to go after the brief encounter. Only if the person is illegally in the United States may the stop lead to further immigration proceedings. So if the person is illegal, regardless of reasonable suspicion,
but at that point you would have
it can go further into proceedings. I'm literally reading it.
Yes, at that point you would have probable cause.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, but the fact is they're only using reasonable suspicion. So if you approach them and have reasonable suspicion...
Reasonable suspicion is not... I don't think you understand. It reads here, that they can indeed use reasonable suspicion to briefly stop the individual. If
Yeah,
they
but
don't
they
have
can't use them
evidence
to
of,
arrest
if they
the
don't have evidence of,
individual.
hold on, if they lack the necessary evidence to conclude that they're a U.S. citizen, then further immigration proceedings can continue.
Yes, then at that point they would have probable cause, right? The reasonable suspicion can lead to a stop.
Okay, what would determine? Hold on, during the stop? What would then determine the probable cause?
The probable cause is if like you couldn't determine that they were either a U.S. citizen or here.
How would you
legally
determine
US.
that?
You could ask them for identification or papers.
Okay, great. So if they refuse identification, and then so that you can probably like reasonably assume that this person is not in the country illegally, then, right?
Yeah, you can build probable cause using the reasonable suspicion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So if I stop someone based off of reasonable suspicion and they fail to provide evidence for them being legal in the country, further proceedings can continue. That's exactly what's been going on.
Yes, if you can use that to build probable cause. But what ICE,
Yes,
what the
that's what's going
DHS, no, that's not what's going on. The DHS literally said, right? The DHS literally said that they're using reasonable suspicion to make arrests, not probable cause. And in the case, I think I just
I don't want to hear that sounds colloquial. I want to get an actual like case.
Allegations
right?
that the DHS law enforcement officers. Wait, can I finish? This is from the DHS. Engaged in racial profiling is disgusting, reckless, and categorically false.
That's
Under
different.
the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, DHS law enforcement uses reasonable suspicion to make arrests.
Yes. Yes, because the reasonable suspicions. Hold on, because the reasonable suspicions under probable cause can lead them to make arrests. That's how that works.
No, you would need probable cause. You can't just use reasonable suspicion.
Yeah, the reasonable. Okay, hold on. I don't think
you
you
wait,
understand.
Matt Nuclear.
It
Can you
starts.
use reasonable?
There's
No, I'm
two
going to
steps
ask
to
you.
this.
I need wait.
There's two steps to this, right? Number one is reasonable suspicion, and then probable cause comes after they fail to provide identification proving they're
Can
U.S.
you
citizen.
use reasonable suspicion to make arrests alone?
They didn't say alone.
Can you use reasonable
They didn't say
suspicion?
alone.
Can you use reasonable suspicion alone to make arrests? Yes or no?
To briefly stop them.
Can you
and
to
then
make
to
arrests?
go on with further proceedings that they provide.
Do you understand the difference between briefly doing like a Terry stop
yes,
and
I
an
understand.
arrest?
The
Okay,
arrest
so I'm going to
would
ask.
come-
So
if
I'm going
they
to ask
fail
the
to
question
provide-
again.
if they
I'm going to ask the
provide
question again. Hopefully,
documentation, arrest
so
would come
can you
afterwards.
wait? Can you use reasonable suspicion alone to make arrests?
To briefly stop the individual and
Can
then make
you?
arrests if
Okay.
they lack.
Yes, sir.
if they
Can you
lack
use?
the ability
Can
to
you
provide
use
documentation
reasonable
proving they're
suspicion?
illegal
Can you
residents.
be?
You're
Can you
being
use?
so dense,
Can you
dude.
use reasonable
So
suspicion
it's not going to
alone
change.
to
Again,
make
my
arrests?
answer is not going to change, right? So it's really simple.
Yes or no?
You make
So that's
reasonable
dodge number one.
suspicion.
That's dodge number one.
Oh, you're muting now because you're losing the argument?
That's dodge number two.
Don't mute because you're losing the argument. You say don't mute up here, right? Okay, great.
That's dodge
So
number three.
reasonable suspicion means only the immigration officers may briefly stop the individual.
That's dodge
Arrest
number
would
four.
come after they lack the ability to provide documentation, as I've said.
That's dodge number 5.
So can you give me a single case? Give me a single case where reasonable
Wait.
That's
suspicion
dodge number
alone.
6.
I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to steel
So-
man both your arguments real quick, and then
Don't Matt, Noah, don't steal man. He needs to answer the question. Can you use
I already
reasonable
did.
suspicion? No,
You
you
still like
didn't.
the answer.
Can you use reasonable?
Yeah, you still like the
Can you
answer.
use reasonable
Well, I'm gonna tell
suspicion
you why
alone?
he's
No.
not answering the
No.
question.
Can you use reasonable suspicion alone?
You're crashing out right
to
now,
make,
dude, because you're
I'm
losing the
not.
argument.
Can you use
No
reasonable
one mentioned
suspicion?
alone. By the way, what you're reading from.
I'm
what you're reading
asking you.
from-
I'm not asking. Wait.
What you're reading
Matt,
from
Nuclear,
referencing the
just
DHS
answer,
does not
just
mention
answer,
alone
just,
either.
Wait. I never said they said alone. I just want you to answer the question.
Okay,
Can
great.
you
So
use-
reasonable
okay, so
suspicion.
Can you use reasonable
means
suspicion?
brief stops.
Can you use?
Again,
can you,
just
can
let
you
me
let
answer
me
the
finish
question.
the
And if you want
no,
to
I'm
answer,
going to
just
answer the
don't crash
question.
out. Let
No,
me
I'm going to ask the question,
So
and then you're going to
reasonable
answer it.
suspicion.
Can you use
Reasonable suspicion means that only immigration officers may
can-
briefly
Matt,
stop the individual.
Matt,
Arrest would come
Matt,
after they
Matt,
lack
Matt,
the ability to
Matt,
provide
Matt,
documentation proving they're a U.S. citizen.
Matt, can you use reasonable suspicion alone to make
You're
an
not
arrest?
going to get a different answer. You're going to get
Can
the
you
same
use
answer
reasonable-
over and over
It's
again.
just a yes or no question. Can you use reasonable
but you
suspicion
can-
alone to make an
you
arrest?
can
So
just
again, like I
say-
said
you can just
before,
say
I'm
no,
quoting,
but
no
then
one
Just
was
say no.
asked
Just
about
Matt.
that.
Just say no. It's such an easy
Reasonable
question.
suspicion is used to briefly stop the
Can
individual.
you
If
use
the individual
reason?
lacks
Can
the
you use
ability to
reasonable
provide
suspicion?
evidence
So
that they're
this
a
is the
U.S.
problem.
citizen,
This is the problem. This is
then
the reason. This is
further
the reason,
immigration
Matt.
proceedings continue.
Okay, this is the reason that Matt doesn't want to answer. The reason is because if he
You're
admits this,
crashing
and
out
then
because you're
and then I
losing
can.
right now, dude.
The reason, if I can,
You're crashing out because you're losing.
If I can prove this, that means, right, if the DHS and ICE is only using reasonable suspicion to make arrests, then it would be a violation of their Fourth Amendment rights. Matt
Sure, give
Nuclear
me the
can't
case.
answer. Matt
Give me the
Nuclear
case.
can't. Wait,
Hold on, just give me the case.
wait, no. Just answer the question then. Just answer the question. I'll give you the case, right?
No, I don't want to answer.
Can you-
I already answered your question like
No,
5
you
times.
didn't.
Give me the case.
It was a yes or no question.
Reasonable
Can it use
suspicion
alone to
with,
make an arrest?
For example, the adequate papers given by the individual, and they still made the arrest.
Matt, that's because it builds probable cause, right? At that point, you would have probable cause. That's not what I'm talking about.
Just listen to my question really slowly. So maybe your brain can process my answer if I say it slower for you.
Can you
Ready?
use
Scratch? Just hold on for a second.
Can you
Let
use
me ask my
reasonable
question
suspicion
in a
alone
slow
to make an
manner
arrest?
so your brain
Scratch.
can comprehend it. Are you ready?
Scratch.
So find me a single case in which they were arrested just based off of reasonable suspicion.
Malona
right?
v. DHS.
So the case would hold on.
Malona v. DHS.
The case would conveniently.
Malona v. DHS.
So hold on.
No, do you want to hear?
A case I would love to
Escobar
see.
Malona v. United States Department of Homeland Security. Case number 125-034-17.
Hold on. So what's the case?
Okay. Escobar Malona v. United States Department of Homeland Security. Now,
Dude,
I'm going to
like,
answer. Now, I answered your
you're
question.
you're hardly
I answered
intelligible. I can't
Escobar
understand what you're
Malona
saying,
v.
'cause your
United States
microphone's
Department
horrible.
of Homeland Security. Now, I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to answer it yes or no.
Hold on,
This is a
give
yes
me.
or
Hold
no.
on, dude. Your microphone is horrible. I can barely understand the
This
case.
is a
What's the
fine
case?
microphone. Escobar Malona.
Or your microphone's horrible, bro. What is it?
Escobar Malona v. United States Department of State.
Dude, just fucking enunciate your words.
Escobar Malona versus.
I've said it 5
Escobar.
times.
Thank you.
I've said it 5 times. So, Matt, answer the question. This is a yes or no question.
Hold
I don't
on,
want
let
to
me
hear
go to the
anything.
case.
No. I want a yes or no answer to this question, right? Can you use reasonable suspicion
already answered
alone
that
to
question.
make an arrest?
I already answered that question. I'm not gonna
You did not answer. Yes or no? Can you use
I did,
reasonable
I did.
No, you did not.
I
Did you
cited
say yes? Wait.
No
You can
versus
move it.
Vasquez.
You can
You're
move
trying to
along
run
the
away so
debate.
badly here, dude. And you're
Matt
like
Nuclear, we
freaking
can
out.
finish
I
once you
cited-
answer the
hold on.
question.
Let me
No
talk
versus
for a
Vasquez
second.
here.
Okay, go
And I
ahead.
already told you that reasonable suspicion is used to make brief arrests or detain the individuals. If they lack
not an
the
arrest.
ability to provide documentation, then further immigration proceedings go on. That's literally what it says.
Yeah, but
That's
you
not-
could literally
So the answer is
you could
no.
literally progress the debate by just saying
So,
no.
So the answer
But
is
then
no.
at that point, they raise probable cause through the
Right.
investigation. That
So
just
again,
move
the-
along.
So
the
just
debate
say
by
no.
saying
So Matt Nuclear,
Right,
just
so
say
the,
no.
so the, so the, right, right.
Just
so,
say
so
no.
Again, the important question now.
Say
hold on,
wait.
Matt,
Say no.
let's look at
Wait.
this
Can you say
case.
that? Can you say no?
Yeah,
You
now
can't
let's
use
look at
reasonable
the
suspicion
case. See, this is all
alone
you trying to dodge and run away from the
You
substance.
can't
I
use
thought you were a
reasonable
substance
suspicion.
guy, but
You
you're trying
can't
to
use
run away from the
reasonable.
substance,
You
right?
can't use. I want you to answer
Very
the question.
convenient that you're trying to run away from the substance.
Matt. I just want. So you admit that you cannot use reasonable suspicion alone, right, to make an arrest. You need to reuse reasonable suspicion to build probable cause, and then you can make the arrest. Correct?
Yeah, the reasonable suspicion can be used to build probable cause. I've already said this
Okay,
earlier.
thank
That's the
you.
first time I said. That's the first thing I said.
That's not the first thing you said.
Okay, I'm looking over the case. Let's go over the summary.
Just from a quick once over, page 6 of 88, document
This is
68.
suing. So this was a. All right, so this was an allegation. There was no conclusion to this case. I'm reading here on
Read the
September
preliminary
25th,
injunction.
2025. 4 Washington, D.C. Members and the National Immigration Organization, CASA, sued the Trump administration to end its policy and practice of making immigration arrests in D.C. without a warrant and without probable cause. The plaintiffs are represented by the American Civil Liberties Union of the District of Columbia, American Civil Liberties Union, AMICA, Center for Immigration Rights, CASA, National Immigration Project, the Washington Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Urban Affairs, and the law firm of Covington and Burling. Okay. So
this sentence
there's no
real quick.
conclusion. There's
I'm
no
gonna read this-
conclusion to the case that you gave me. By the way, there's no conclusion to the case.
Yeah,
I'm
read
gonna
the
read this
read
sentence
the
just-
preliminary injunction.
I'm going to read
Evidence
this
is in it.
sentence just real
go
quick
ahead.
before we move on. The next month, Chief Border Patrol Agent Gregory Bovino, in a public statement, reiterated we only need reasonable suspicion to make an immigration request. You notice I did not say probable cause, nor did I say we need a warrant. I need a warrant. Excuse me. So that's
Also
So
reading
Greg
report,
moved. So
given
Matt
the court's
Nuclear. Matt
precedents,
Nuclear.
the government
Greg-
demonstrated
so
a
Greg-
course
so
of
Greg- wait,
Matt,
grounds to include otherwise the court would
So wait,
therefore
let's read
overrule.
that. Wait, let's read that one more time. We
The
need
government has
reasonable
also demonstrated
suspicion.
it would likely suffer irreparable harm if the district court's
We
injunction
need
is on
we need
stay.
reasonable suspicion to make an immigration arrest. You notice I did not say probable cause, nor did I say hey, I need a
The
warrant.
Immigration Nationality Act
So wait, Matt,
authorizes
Matt.
immigration officers. Hold on, let me read this. The Immigration Nationality Act authorizes immigration officers to quote interrogate any alien or person believed to be an alien as to his right or to be or to remain in the United States. Immigration officers may briefly detain an individual for questioning if they have a reasonable suspicion based on the specific articulable facts. Then the person is being questioned as an alien, so on and so forth. Hold on.
Yeah, so interrogation and even detainment is
So-
no arrest.
Let's read. I want to read.
Wait, I agree
just
with you.
for the-
I agree with you.
so
But I haven't seen a specific case.
So just for the wait. This is from
I haven't
Greg.
seen a.
Matt, this is
I
from
haven't seen a
Greg.
ruling. I haven't seen a ruling on a mass scale of them just making
Let's
arrests based off
let's
of
read this. This is from Greg
suspicion.
Bovino. Okay, we need
That's not a
reasonable
case.
suspicion to make an
That's not a
arrest.
case.
Wait, so if the DHS is admitting, right, or not even DHS, if the head of ICE or former head of ICE at this point
He's
is
not the
admitting,
head of ICE.
Huh? He was the head of ICE operations in Minnesota. I think he was head of ICE operations.
He was
in LA
commander
too.
at large,
He was commander at
specifically.
large,
in Minnesota.
yeah.
Commander
Okay.
at large. He wasn't the head of
Cool.
ICE.
I'm glad. And then he was actually slightly above that when he was in CBP. So if one of the like major
And he wasn't
players in
even,
ICE
like, yeah,
who's
he
over, can I finish? Who's overseeing, right, operate them like these major ICE operation raids is literally saying we only need reasonable suspicion to make warrantless arrests. We have cases where the courts are siding, right, with the plaintiff here in preliminary injunction, and
You
we
haven't
know,
given me a
and we
single
didn't.
case.
I literally
in
just
which-
gave you the case.
So you have it right. The case that you give me, there was no conclusion reached. There
I
has
literally-
been no
wait, so-
conclusion reached by the
I
judicial-
literally-
I have
yeah,
another,
yes.
I have another
Hold
two
on, there has
sentences
been
to
no
read to
conclusion.
answer
Hold
the
on, you're
question.
failing to
But the
track.
court,
dude.
the
There
court
has
is,
been
I have
the
no
court
another
is
two
siding. Wait,
sentences
you're
to
failing
has
to
been
trick
no-
me, Matt. You're
Wait,
failing,
real
Matt.
quick.
Right.
No,
So
no.
the case hasn't finalized, so you can't.
No,
reach
no,
a conclusion
yeah,
until
so-
the case
No,
finalizes.
just for a second. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
When a preliminary injunction is granted to a plaintiff or to a plaintiff, the court, one of the requirements for a preliminary injunction to be granted is that the court thinks that the plaintiff is likely to win in the merits. So when a preliminary injunction
Likely, again.
so when a preliminary injunction against the government is granted, that means the court is currently, at least at the moment, siding with the plaintiff. So I think there is good evidence.
That's not a
Can I
conclusion
finish?
to a case.
Can I finish? I never said it was. I never made that claim. So I'm going to say
Okay,
this.
great.
Right?
That's not.
Wait,
that's
wait,
that's. But
wait,
I'm
wait, can I
asking
finish?
you for a
Can I finish?
conclusion in
Can
a
I
case.
finish?
That's what I'm asking
I
you
don't.
for.
I can't give you one right now. So when Greg
Okay,
Bravino,
great. So then- then
when
you
Greg,
lost.
no, I didn't lose. When Greg Bravino,
you've
the head
lost.
of when Greg Bravino, the head of ICE operations, is
Not
literally
the head of ICE operations. You're just wrong. You're just wrong again.
Yeah, wait, I was about to finish. I said the head of ICE operations in Minnesota and all these other like ICE raids, right? So hopefully you can let me finish my statements, and then you'll actually know, right? Is literally saying we only need reasonable suspicion to make arrests. We don't need probable cause. We have cases where the courts are siding with the plaintiffs on this. I think it is a completely fair justification, right? And completely fair judgment to say that ICE is making warrantless arrests without probable cause, and that is a violation of immigrants' Fourth Amendment rights that is currently happening. Do you disagree with that assessment?
Yeah, I disagree with that assessment.
Why?
Because there's been, for example, right, sure. Because if they made, let's say they were doing a bunch of like warrantless arrests, right, and they were detaining people, obviously, who were U.S. citizens. Then where are all these cases with U.S. citizens saying I was arrested based off of reasonable suspicion and not based off of evidence building up, proving that there is actual probable cause to arrest me?
I think there's almost certainly other cases. Like this is one. Just
Right,
just
exactly.
one case.
There are none. That's the issue, though. That's like
Wait,
that's the issue.
That's wait,
Because
how
like,
do you know
I'm
this?
assuming because
how do
even
you
if he
wait?
go, even if
How do you know?
he
Wait,
goes up
Matt,
and say
Matt,
we're
Matt,
making,
Matt,
because
how do you
I
know?
don't
Wait,
even understand like Gregory
wait, Matt,
Bobino's
Matt,
understanding of immigration law.
Matt.
Hold on. Let me finish for a second. I don't understand the sophistication of Gregory Bobino's understanding of immigration law, but he may be saying a reasonable suspicion and meaning like the reasonable suspicion is based off of probable cause. But if
No.
you're saying that they're going around,
No, wait. How can you interpret this any differently? We need reasonable suspicion. Notice I did not say probable cause. Nor I say I need a warrant.
Reasonable suspicion.
I don't know how you
and
can
those
say that.
people have like magically not provided evidence of like, let's say, legal status within the country, and they're all just being thrown into these ICE detention facilities, then please show me the cases in which these are happening.
Matt, sorry,
right?
Matt, just give me a second.
But
Sorry,
typically
Matt.
when I hear about U.S. citizens, it's about them being detained and not actually arrested, right?
Matt, you just made a claim. So the claim you just made is that like the reason that we can say this is because we aren't seeing like a bunch of U.S. citizens this happening with and a bunch of court cases being filed. Matt, did you even know about this before it came up on the panel? Because you literally came up in the panel and we're talking about.
No,
warrants,
I've heard these arguments.
Really?
Before,
then
but
why
you're
didn't
still
you
not
hear about?
responding to what I
Wait,
said.
did you hear about this case before it came up on the panel?
If these,
Matt, no, Matt, did you hear about this case?
why are
before
you
it came up
running
on
away
the
from the
panel?
central?
No.
You keep running away because
I'm not
you
running
really
away
can't
from the
debate
central.
this
I'm not
topic,
running away.
which is why
I'm
you keep running
literally
away.
hitting on a claim.
Focus on the main crucial
So
point.
Matt, you made a claim.
Let's do
that,
some.
Matt, no, I'm literally focusing on your point. So Matt,
you're let's do some inductive reasoning.
Let's do some inductive reason. Matt made a claim.
Okay, great. So let's start with step one.
The claim
Let's
that
say that an ICE officer,
okay,
right?
let's start with step one. Is that you
detains
not
a person-
talking over me? So Matt, you made a
you're
claim.
muting, but you say you don't.
Yes,
mute
I am
people up
muting
here.
because
I
you're not
could've
letting.
sworn
Yes,
you-
I will mute when you don't let me talk.
You don't mute
right?
people up here, right?
I do mute
Why are
when
you
you don't let me talk. I don't give a fuck, Matt.
Why
It's
are
my
you running-
platform. I'm not running away.
Why are you running?
Matt, you are running
You're
from your own
proving that you're
claim.
losing.
Matt,
You're proving that you're losing.
Matt,
You're muting me.
Matt, you're running from your own claim.
Dude,
Matt,
like literally, I agree with you and I disagree with Scratch, but
You can't be muting me.
So,
Hold on,
Matt-
Tumblr. I
but
don't
you're
care.
you're
He's
talking,
muting me
you're
during
talking, You're
Matt,
talking
when he says he
over
doesn't
him.
mute.
You need to
So,
relax.
the
dude.
specific claim
Okay.
that you made, is
Relax,
that
and he keeps
the
running away
reason
from me.
that we can, the reason that
He's
the
not
reason,
running
the
away.
reason, the
Yeah,
reason
he
that
is.
we,
It's
like
debate,
he's
bro.
over
so
talking
the
and not
specific claim,
understanding how cases actually work.
the specific claim that you made, right,
And he
in
can't provide me any
contention
cases.
to my, I literally gave you a case. So the specific claim that you made, right?
With no conclusion, yeah.
The specific claim that you gave me, right? Claim that you gave is that the reason that we can say that this like probably isn't happening is because there aren't a bunch of other court cases coming out about this, right? That's what we said. Now, my point to you is that you don't know about all the other court cases coming out. You didn't even know about the one that I just cited to you. So you couldn't. So
burden
you
of
couldn't.
proof would be on you.
You
burden
wait.
of proof would
You
be
made
on you
wait.
to provide.
The burden of proof is not. Wait, no.
cases where this
Matt
is happening
Nuclear. Matt
actually.
Nuclear. Matt Nuclear. When I make the statement that the reason I believe this is one, the courts are siding with the current plaintiff on this case, and two, the head of
No
ICE
conclusion on any of those cases.
the head of ICE operations currently in like or passing in Minnesota and these other places literally said that they're doing this, and then your statement is, "Oh,
reasonable suspicion."
And then I ask you the question, why is that not a reasonable justification for believing that the Fourth Amendment violation is happening? And you say, "Oh, because there aren't a bunch of other cases coming about this." That is a positive claim that you're making and a burden of proof you bear, and you literally don't know all the cases, so you could not possibly make that assessment.
Right, but you don't. Right, but
so you were wrong.
Thank
you for conceding your point. So that was a dumb point.
Are you gonna? Okay, great. So, just to summarize why you're wrong, you gave me a case in which there was no actual conclusion to the case, and then you gave me Gregory Bovino, who is not like someone who studied jurisdiction or law. He's not a judge. He's not an attorney. He's none of those things. And he said that they're making arrests based off of reasonable suspicion, right? And I want evidence for mass scale. Can you just like answer one question? Do you believe like hundreds of people are being arrested based off of like reasonable suspicion only, based off of what Gregory Bovino said? Yes or no? Yeah.
I don't know.
What the fuck? So hold on. So you're proving my point again. You don't know whether or not hundreds of people have hundreds of people been arrested.
I think people are being arrested based on without like I think people are being arrested on a basis of only reasonable suspicion. I couldn't tell you that number though, and I don't know that number. And because I'm an honest person, I'm not going to give you it.
I don't know what
percent
are actually. Hold on. What
I don't know.
arrests you think are lawful?
I don't know. I don't know something. I'm not going to make a claim about it.
Not even like the majority. You can't even tell me the majority of these cases I believe are unlawful.
I couldn't make a claim about something like that.
Okay, great. So you're ignorant, like I said earlier. But again, this is my point. If I can actually like say my point here, right? So my main point is if you believe that they're just making these mass arrests without probable cause, then
I never said mass arrest.
Hold on,
Okay.
or just arrest.
That's not what I said.
On a significant, on like a marginal significance.
I never even said significant.
Okay, so if you're like quoting maybe let's say errors that are being made on a minuscule level, every single system within government has errors committed on the minuscule level.
It's not
why we have watchdog groups, right?
Okay, dude. So
that's like a fucking.
I want. So Matt, why do you think?
Like you're saying minuscule errors are being committed by a department, then that's a stupid argument.
I don't think it's just. I don't think it's a. Wait, to be clear, it's not a minuscule.
Significantly unlawful.
It's not a minuscule. It's not a minuscule. It's not a minuscule error, right? When the person who is overseeing the major ICE operations of the country is literally saying that this is how they're operating. That's not a minuscule error. That's an error from a higher up in administration. It is a policy. That is not something. So it's really dumb that you say it. Also, wait. You also said Gregory Bovino isn't somebody who's like a judge or anything. I don't give a fuck. He doesn't need to be a judge. He needs to be somebody in a high vision of leadership, which he fucking is, or at least was.
It's also corroborated by Tricia.
Well, wasn't he demoted?
The DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. She said the principal advisor to Secretary Noem on all external and the principal advisor to Secretary Noem. She said allegations that DHS law enforcement officers engaged in racial profiling are disgusting, reckless, and false. Under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, DHS law uses reasonable suspicion to make arrests.
Well, though that would be contradictory to Kristi Noem specifically versus Vasquez, because Kristi Noem versus Vasquez specifically outlines the fact that they can indeed use like ethnicity or use like places of work and stuff like that to deduce whether or not someone is probably illegal or probably not, just to make the work more efficient. So that's like commentary. Hold on, that's essentially just commentary on something the Supreme Court has already ruled on. Like that's antithetical and contradictory to what the Supreme Court has already ruled on, right? But again, there's something very important here. If you're saying that someone like Gregory Bovino has just like been going out there and making these like arrests without probable cause, but based off of only reasonable suspicion, if that was actually happening,
he literally
like
said that.
If it was actually,
he literally said
if that
that
was actually happening, hold on. If that was actually happening, then yeah, he would be breaking the law. But he was just like recently demoted. So maybe the DHS is like recognizing that this guy is acting. Hold on.
Cool, we got a concession. We got a concession. Wow, thank you.
That's not a hold on.
Thank
that's not
you.
a concession because you still hold on. That's not a concession because people can say things all the time that they don't understand or that they haven't confirmed yet. What I'm looking for is like haste to actually figure out whether or not these things have been confirmed or not confirmed. Gregory Bovino was demoted. I don't know whether or not what he said was 100% accurate or not accurate. Again, it's like it kind of seems to me every single time you guys hear something that sounds scary from someone who's like, let's say pro-Trump, you assume that they're accurate, but whenever they say something like outrageous that you don't like, they're not accurate. So he was demoted regardless by the DHS. Now, whether or not this was happening under him, like if there was cases
I don't know
arrests being made on a mass scale, I don't think so. That's the thing.
Well, the problem with this conversation is one, you're like assigning claims that people never made, right? Nobody ever said this was happening at a mass level. We just said it was happening, and this is for violations. That's what we came. That's what I never even said significant. I never even said that. You put that onto me, and then you. So, I never. Wait. Why are you acting like it's a win when I never made a statement?
Hold on.
Cool. No. Matt. Please take your hand off your dick and stop jerking off. Right? You can't sell. You can't celebrate. You can't celebrate a win. You can't celebrate a win on a point that I never made.
I beat you, bro.
You can't You beat me at a point I never made. Did I ever say significantly?
Hold on.
Did I ever say mass? No, oh my gosh. This is Matt. I never made that claim.
What is it?
I never made that claim.
Hold on. Just answer my question. If something is not significant, what is it?
If something's not significant, then what is it? Happening?
Yeah. No.
Mediocre? Mid?
If something is not significant, what's the word used to describe not significant?
What's the word used to describe? The opposite of significant would be like minuscule, I guess.
Not even that. Like insignificant. What you're telling me is that Gregory Bovino said something that you don't know whether or not what he said was actually true. You're going off of his account. He was demoted. And you can't even tell me whether or not what is happening. Like
Matt. I know, Matt.
You're essentially saying that it's insignificant, dude. You are being demolished on these points.
That is not true. That's not true. When you say
you're saying it's insignificant. A guy who said it was demoted.
Wait, Matt. Do you think? Matt.
Actually illustrated.
Why are you trying to get us semantically?
Okay, wait. Matt. Do you think that violations of the Constitution are significant? That is a significant problem?
Yeah, but you haven't provided.
Okay, so even if I could prove that one time that was happening, that would be significant. So when you say significant, you're talking about the number of times that are happening, which is kind of telling that you actually don't think it's significant. And even if it's like one or two people got their rights violated, that's super telling. That's super telling. I never made the claim that I could. That's super. No, Matt. And you can keep celebrating about the fact that that you got a concession on a point that I never made. That's fine, right? Number two, right? Obviously, if somebody in the Biden administration who was a part of who was like overseeing ICE operations said, "Hey guys, we're doing this super illegal, unconstitutional thing," and then we're having court cases come out where the courts are siding with people on super illegal, unconstitutional thing that they're doing, then obviously, I'm gonna say, yeah, Biden is almost certainly doing this super illegal, unconstitutional thing.
Hold on, I'm curious. When you have someone that is like under the DHS generally who does something illegal, how do you think Biden would have responded to it? By firing him or demoting him or by keeping him on the job?
I'd have probably fired them. I don't know.
There you go, got your ass again.
Probably.
I like how you just stopped.
Do you think that he was fired?
Hold on, answer the question.
Firing
wasn't fired.
Okay, there you go. So was he essentially fired?
No, he was reassigned to the CBP.
So yeah, he was reassigned, but again, that's like administrative leave essentially, right? So when you don't know the like official facts around a specific case, you probably demote someone or reassign them to like inferior roles until actual cases come up. And if Gregory Bovino was doing this, and it's not just a LARP, then he would be fired.
Wait, Matt.
Right?
Matt, Matt.
You're just being annihilated.
Sorry, Matt, how do you know that he was, Matt, how do you know the fact that he was demoted wasn't because of the Alex Preddy shooting?
Because that was not explicitly said.
Was it explicitly said why he was demoted?
That's something we could probably.
Then how could wait? If you don't know the explicit reason, then why would you then assign this to the Fourth Amendment violations, dumbass?
Because again, there's inconclusive cases about it, which are being.
There's inconclusive cases about the Alex Preddy thing. You can't assess whether he got demoted for that reason.
What happened with Alex Preddy? I mean, we can talk about it actually with level.
Wait, no. Just make a statement. No, Matt. That argument doesn't make any sense because you don't know the reason why he was demoted. That was a dumb argument you just made. If you don't know the reason he's demoted, your entire argument, he was demoted and put administrative leave because of pending cases, you don't fucking know that. You just made that shit up.
That's something we could probably like infer, right?
Really? So was it really? Okay. Was it after this case
is there any evidence of Gregory Bovino? This would be actually very important.
Yeah, because just be clear. Wait.
Hold on. Is there any evidence of Gregory Bovino specifically overseeing that?
Escobar, this case was filed in September 20.
Stuttering and all over the place right now.
This case was filed. This case that I'm talking about right now was filed in September 2025. Why the fuck is he only getting demoted now?
So no, answer my.
Answer that question. This case was filed.
Right, so just let me. Okay, great. I'll answer because, as I told you earlier, that's what I'm inferring. So when you infer something, it's not 100% certain.
No. Just tell me.
Saying that.
Was it more likely after the worst ICE incident and most publicized, he's demoted, or after a case that was filed in 2020?
Specifically oversaw the shooting. Did he specifically oversee the shooting?
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you again. Right? Is it?
No. Answer. Don't wait for me. Did he oversee the shooting?
No, he did not oversee the shooting. No, he did not oversee the shooting.
Okay, great. So why would we infer that he was demoted because of the shooting and not?
Because that happens in politics all the time. For instance, after the Trump assassination. That's not true. No, after the Trump No, I said it could have been because of the shooting. Yes, I said you didn't know.
See the shooting, then why would he be demoted because of that?
That happens in politics all the time. I was about to say, take for instance the Secret Service. The Secret Service.
Something happened.
Wait, give me a sec. The Secret Service lady or the BLS girl. Both of those people, they weren't directly overseeing when the BLS was making all those mistakes. It wasn't their specific job to literally look at and see. No, it was not.
Yeah, it was.
So wait, the person in the BLS was the one making the mistakes. About when the BLS data.
Right. So I actually know about this. In reference to the Secret Service director, that specific Secret Service director, I'm pretty sure, also had like weird quotas for women earlier and prior to that as well. And that's why people were talking about the lack of security and, let's say, conformity with the agents on the actual scene at Buffalo. So that's totally actually accurate. But again, we don't we can just agree to the fact that it's semi-inconclusive, the exact reason why he was specifically fired, but the point still stands. He was demoted.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm just gonna disagree with the Buffalo one, but I guess a better one, the most recent one with the BLS, right? The BLS director doesn't specifically oversee like the mistakes that are being made. Yet she was actually fired. She was actually I think she resigned for that one, right? It happens all the time when people are in like positions of power. Oftentimes, in these like mistakes under the administration happen, oftentimes they'll resign from their post. So you don't even. So you don't wait. So wait. You understand that happens a lot, right? Where somebody's in a position of power, not directly overseeing something, but something bad happens.
When someone is in a position of power,
wait. So cool. So wait. Whether he was directly overseeing the shooting has nothing to do with whether he's going to get demoted for it. I'm glad we can understand that.
Scratch. I'm trying to get you to understand it, right? So it's very simple. I understand your general point. Your general point is that someone that is in a position of power that oversees certain functions and operations, when there is a big failure that happens under their duties, they can resign or they can be fired. That's typically because of the incompetence and the lack of direction, right? And the lack of enforcement under their specific behavior. That has not been shown by Gregory Bovino. Again, me and you are inferring two different things, and what we're doing is actually not necessarily wrong because it's inconclusive. What you go off of something is inconclusive.
Cool. So if we can't inference. So here's what we know. We know that there's a major shooting, probably the worst ICE incident that's happened under Trump administration. Right after that, like publicly, when it comes to public exposure, right? Right after that,
hold on, so the DHS respond to that by calling him a domestic terrorist or by saying Gregory Bovino? How dare you let this happen?
I don't know. Can I finish my sentence? Right after that, Gregory Bovino, right? Gregory Bovino gets demoted. On the other hand, we have a pending case from September 2025 that for some reason he's only getting demoted for now. So can you answer? Do you think it's more relevant that after the most publicized and probably widely criticized ICE action in the administration, Greg Bovino gets demoted, that's the reason, or from
absolutely like wreck this argument, right? So really quickly, the way that we would know whether or not Gregory Bonvino was specifically, let's say, demoted because of this case is whether or not the DHS would come out, right? Because if he was demoted because of what happened with Alex Preddy, the DHS would have come out and said, Gregory Bonvino is an idiot. The fact that he allowed this to happen, an unarmed, like, you know, leftist who didn't even need all those bullets, like they would have said something like that if they were firing him because of his handling of the shooting. They came out and said that he was a domestic terrorist, right? So if the DHS and Kristi Noem is calling Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist,
No, that's actually
why
a
the
lie,
fuck
what
would
you
they
just said.
fire? Hold on, why the fuck would they
You just
fire?
lied.
Why the fuck would they fire Alex? Hold on. Why the fuck would they fire Bonvino, who oversaw the unaliving of the so-called domestic terrorist, or allowed the unaliving of the domestic terrorist to happen under him?
they literally watched. They literally Bonvino. Like, okay, go ahead and tell
Like,
me.
how can I guess
Go ahead,
both
Tom.
can
Would
be
you-
simultaneously true, but like it's kind of hard. to
Would
conflate
you
both
would
things.
you agree that the ultimate decision would be Trump's?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay, so Trump does not agree that he was a domestic terrorist and has said he wants the investigation to play out.
Okay, great. So how would that conflate with Gregory Bonvino?
That completely removes the point you just made.
No, hold on. No, that, it
Because
doesn't remove it doesn't remove the case.
The person who's in charge
How does
of
that-
making
how does
the
that
decision
contradict
said
Gregory
it wasn't
Bonvino?
because the person in charge that you just agreed would make that decision didn't say the guy was a domestic terrorist.
No, that's difference. There's a difference there specifically. Trump is under the DHS.
What?
The DHS called. Hold on, just focus. The DHS.
I mean, the
called
DHS is
him a
under
domestic
Trump.
terrorist. Trump saying I don't believe he necessarily was, and he wants the case to play out, is him wanting more information. That does not necessitate him specifically calling for the firing of Gregory Bonvino. That's another inference that you're making based off of flawed reasoning.
No, that just
Yes.
refutes the point you just made.
How does it refute? Are you dumb? How does that refute the point I made?
I think he's trying to say it refutes. Right, sorry. It refutes the point because if Trump is the one who's in charge of this, right, and he's saying that it's not a terrorist, and he's ultimately the person who makes the final say, then it doesn't really matter what the fuck Kristi Noem says. That wouldn't be
No.
it
How? No.
because you're trying to say
That's you using. No. That's you using very rudimentary logic without understanding the nuances, and I'll tell you exactly why. So it's really simple. You're right. Members within the executive cannot universally agree on every single thing. Like one person may say he's a domestic terrorist foreigner. One person may say he was not handling the situation correctly, or he was not behaving correctly. One person may say, yeah, I don't really know. I want more information. Just because someone like Trump, who is the head of the executive, obviously, says that I don't necessarily know whether or not he's a domestic terrorist, I want more information, does not mean he was specifically responsible for the firing or demotion of Gregory Bonvino. It's just that he has a slightly different stance than everyone else.
You're also wrong there because literally.
Hold on, and by the way, he's inconclusive.
Literally
Why would
every-
he fire him if he's inconclusive
Literally
about the case?
every single person in the administration was parroting the line that he was a domestic terrorist. The only person who refused to say that was Donald Trump, and he's the one in charge.
Again, so if you're hold on, why did he say that he?
Yeah. So Matt, I just want to
hold on.
So
Hold on. Let me ask Tom Lower a question. This is very important.
Okay.
Why did Trump refuse to call him a domestic terrorist again? This is very
Because he
important.
probably looked at internal polling in the video and said,
No, not
"We fucked
probably.
up."
What did he say? What did he say?
He said he wants to see the investigation play out.
Okay, great. So when someone is inconclusive about something, do they make a determinative decision like firing, or do they typically wait for more information before?
well, they didn't fire him. They demoted him. That would make sense.
My point proven. Do they
Right, what you said-
typically make determinative
what you
decisions like
said
demotions,
earlier-
or do they wait for more information before?
And it wasn't really.
Right,
It wasn't.
well,
Sorry, to be clear, it kind of wasn't demotion. It was his prior role, and these operations are technically temporary. So he just got taken off the operations.
That also, but let's just say
Which would make sense. Which would make sense if there's an investigation. Which would make sense if there's an investigation. If there's an investigation going on under operations under you, and then they put you back into your previous position while this investigation are undergoing. That would make perfect sense.
No, but the DHS official specifically spoke to ABC News, or I believe NBC and MSNBC, and said demotion. That's what DHS officials said. So I'm gonna just go based off of what they said. Regardless.
Wait. Why can we go off of? Wait. Why can I go off what DHS officials said now? No. Why can we go off of what DHS officials said now? Why can no. Wait. Why can I go off of Why can we go off of DHS officials now?
Because those are the people who are going to be responsible for the firing, and they know what's going on.
Okay, so wait, is Bovino responsible for how ICE operates when in Minnesota and Los Angeles because he was as head of these operations?
He
There?
was the commander of large, specifically of not
Commander-
ICE.
Commander-
It would be Customs and Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protections. You're wrong again. See, you don't even know the category that we're talking about here.
because you're an idiot.
Well, he's commander of large over the operations.
How is he he's commander at large in reference to customs and border protection? Not ICE.
That was not true. Wait.
Are you dumb?
Are you dumb?
I thought that he was the head of ICE. I kept telling you over and over again, he's not the head of ICE. He's not a part of ICE.
Wait, Scratch, you said Greg Bovino is part of ICE?
Yeah, he's been saying this for like 20 minutes after I've corrected him like twice or like 5 times already.
No, wasn't he the commander at large over the operations in Minnesota, right?
Commander at large over the
Customs and border protections. So it says right here, Gregory Bonvino is a high-ranking official within U.S. Customs and Border Protection. As of January 2026, he has served as Border Patrol Sector Chief and Commander at Large for Border Patrol, not ICE. Like, for example, if I read this article here from Yahoo, it's going to tell me the exact same thing because you guys don't know what you're talking about. So here it is, right? Who is Greg Bonvino? It's going to specifically tell you that he is part of Customs and Border Patrol, not ICE. Hold on. You see how it says C?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
commander,
he was. Yeah, but the
ICE.
reason. Yeah, but you're leaving out the part that the reason that he had that special designation is that he is from Border Patrol, but in Minnesota he was put in charge of the command of both.
That's possibly the case, but that's not.
It's
exactly
not
what it
possibly
said.
the
That
case.
is the
That
case.
is
That
the
is the
case.
case.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay, so yeah, that's what I was saying, that he was
That's
commander
not
at
what
large
he
of
said.
CBP and
That's
ICE.
still not what he said. He said ICE specifically, which is
I know.
not true.
I know. He said whatever.
He should have
but
said he oversaw.
Okay,
both
so
operations.
I'm sorry about your semantics distinction. Sorry, but like just to be clear, right?
Semantics
It's an
is meaning.
absurd.
It's important.
Huh?
You were wrong.
I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I will admit when I'm wrong. So
No, he was still right. You said Bovino.
well, I said.
commander of ICE.
Well, he was.
He said
I
commander
said
of ICE,
commander of
like,
ICE
Minnesota.
operations in Minnesota, which was true, right? But I should have also clarified CBP. That would have been a more truthful
But again,
statement.
it's
So
like-
it wasn't wrong, but a more truthful.
It goes even
To be
deeper,
clear,
though,
but it
because,
goes.
for example,
Wait. I'm gonna ask you again. Why? I just need an answer to this question. Why would ICE demote Why would ICE demote Greg Bovino for something that happened? A case that was filed in September 2025.
I'm not telling you it's determinative. So again, as I've said,
But wait,
earlier,
if I'm not saying it is determinative. But why wouldn't they do this?
So
in
I already gave you.
But why would they do? Why wouldn't they do this in September 2025?
Focus for a second.
Why wouldn't they
Focus
do this
for
in
a second.
2025? Why wouldn't they do this in
Focus for a
2025?
second.
Why would they wait?
2025 was that long ago. You're talking about September 2025, right? So it wasn't that long ago. But just let me focus on the point.
That was
Even
4
if
months
you
ago,
have
dude.
one
Why would
case,
they
if
do
you
that
can
4 months
actually
ago?
Let me finish. That would be great. I'm gonna respond to you.
Why would they wait 4
I'm gonna
months?
respond.
Just give an answer. Why would
So
they
I
wait 4
never
months?
told you it was specifically, dude. You're crashing out, and quite frankly, you're not that smart. You're kind of stupid.
Why
right?
would they wait 4 months?
So just let me finish my point. As I've said earlier, I don't believe it was necessarily even one case. I think what he was saying, be it legally incorrect terms, right, for the operations that he was doing, was probably the reason for the quote unquote demotion. But we don't know for a fact, which is why I said it's inconclusive. This other guy believed that, well, Trump had to fire him because Trump is inconclusive. When you're inconclusive about a case, you don't make determinative decisions. Like, for example, if I'm a manager of a business and if this person is being accused of something, but again, I don't know, and I say that I am inconclusive about whether or not he is he actually did this or didn't do this, I don't make a determinative decision like fire somebody. I wait. So I
Matt,
don't believe.
so Matt, let's pretend
because
Matt,
of all of the drama going on.
Okay, Matt. Let's pretend you're a manager of employee A. Employee A is accused by several female coworkers of sexual harassment. Would you A, immediately put that person on suspension, or B, wait 4 months?
Right. So it's really simple. If that person, so I don't think that's that would be a false.
Just answer the question. I'm not making.
That would be a false
Answer the
equivalency
question.
because you believe. No, I'll tell you what's a false equivalency. You believe that Gregory Bonvino specifically was demoted because of the Alex Preddy shooting. That's what you said earlier.
No,
right?
I said it could have been. I never said it
Dude,
was.
I think
I said it was.
kind of-
My
you kind of
no.
said
You
kind of said it in a
no.
way in which
Matt.
that was like-
No, Matt. The problem is that you were weaseling around your point. Your entire argument literally rested on the fact that Greg Bovino was suspended for doing these or being okay with doing these Fourth Amendment violations. Violations. That was your entire argument.
You have comprehension. And
No, Matt. You said that you could reasonably infer the reason that that Greg Bovino was demoted.
Inference is different from conclusive determinations of cases, right?
Yeah, so your entire thing rests on this. Exactly. I never said it was conclusive.
Rest on any
yes, it does.
I really think you have a struggle comprehending. So it's I'm gonna.
No, I don't have a struggle comprehending. Really? Because wait, Matt. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how Matt comes up here and says I have a problem. It's kind of funny how Matt comes up here and says I have a problem comprehending when I was talking about warrantless arrest and he started talking about administrative and judicial. You started talking about administrative and judicial warrants. That's something you did. Yeah, so the entire conversation was about warrantless arrest. So, and I was talking and you came up here, oh yeah, so maybe you should try and comprehend a little bit. No, that's fine, that's fine.
It's simple. Administrative and judicial warrants, okay, just let me please respond to this. I was mentioning the difference between administrative and judicial warrants because typically you guys don't understand that. And it always seems as if
but the conversation wasn't about that.
On these things, so just stop talking for a second. It always seems that I have to educate you on these things. The same way I had to educate you on the fact that he was not commander at large of ICE, right? He was specifically commander at large of CBP. Okay,
was he commander at large of ICE in Minnesota?
You conceded to me. Which you openly conceded to me.
You just
my
said
original
it again.
point was predicated on one main.
I wasn't even wrong.
My original point was
that's a lie. So Matt's lying. Matt's lying again. So this is what happens. This is what happens when you can't track your own arguments. So yes. So Matt came up here, right? He started talking about administrative and judicial warrants. I had to tell him.
You have to really fix your mic. Even people in the chat are saying.
Matt, he did not operate as a commander at large of CBP. He directly reported to Kristi Noem outside the purview of CBP.
Everyone under the DHS directs to Kristi Noem, dude.
Yes, but that's not the CBP. You said he was commander of the CBP just now. That was wrong.
Are you dumb?
He was responsible for Border Patrol and ICE in Minnesota.
I don't think you understand how these federal agencies work. Like, for example, there's Section 287 G of the Immigration Nationality Act of 1952. Dude, law enforcement, specifically in reference to federal law enforcement, even works with local law enforcement as well, right?
Nobody's
so, yes,
disputing
they all cooperate and work with each other.
Nobody's
course they
disputing
do.
that.
ICE works with local law enforcement and even assigns and designates local law enforcement.
Nobody's disputing that.
It's super funny. It's super funny.
Obviously,
Matt,
commander of the CBP.
So this is what. So when Matt gets back in the corner, he starts lying.
Change that.
So
he wasn't
it's okay.
Just working with ICE. He was in charge of ICE in Minnesota.
Jesus Christ, his official designation.
That's why he was commander at large.
Exactly.
Why?
The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol.
Commander at large. No, commander at large over ICE too.
Matt, when there's
Minneapolis.
You guys are
so stupid, dude. CBP and ICE
go to
have
do they
pretty
usually
similar functions, right?
Why did he have a special title?
Like, are you dumb or something?
Why did? Yeah, I'm dumb.
Matt,
why did he have a special title?
Yeah, Matt, do you deny that his commander at large position was outside of the normal purview of CBP, reporting directly to Kristi Noem? Like, his position was outside of CBP.
It's not possibly. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Possibly is.
That's what it was.
It could have possibly been, but there was no violation that was exposed or anything, right?
That's what it was.
A violation. I was just saying that you were wrong by saying he was.
If you're saying it was like generally out of the purview, then you can say that, but that really means nothing.
Matt,
yes, it does. It means he's responsible for another agency's crew in another state. What the fuck are you talking about?
Are you like no? They don't work in just certain states. Like Customs and Border Patrol works in multiple different states. Customs and Border Patrol work in multiple different states, and they can be
nobody's claiming otherwise.
To Immigration Nationality Act, they can be reassigned to different places. This happened under Obama as well.
You're trying to spin it, and you're trying to make it look like they just
I don't know why you guys do lives.
That wasn't the case.
So
he was responsible for them in Minnesota. It sounds like you don't know fuck all about
that.
Exactly. So why? Okay, hold on. Who fucking ruled that what he did was not lawful, or they couldn't do this under any legal purview?
We're not even talking about that right now.
Shut the fuck up.
The Supreme. Wait.
Shut the fuck
up.
Matt. You are
the fucking dude.
Matt, you already. Matt. Wait. Give me a sec.
Both oversee immigration enforcement. Give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Matt, you already.
Don't open your mouth online when you don't know what you're talking about.
Matt,
you don't know what the fuck
you don't know what you're talking
like
about.
Absolute
so
idiot.
it makes this.
And immigration, customs, and enforcement.
So it makes
handle enforcement.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
They handle enforcement
operations. It makes sense
regarding immigration.
It makes sense.
The dude doesn't even know who's running ICE in Minnesota.
You're an absolute idiot.
It makes sense that Matt would come up here, right? We'll talk about warrant. Talk about the difference between judicial.
Think you understand.
Talk about the difference between judicial and administrative warrants, when we
you
were talking
don't
about
know
warrantless
anything.
arrest, we had
Yes, I
to,
have to educate you because you don't know
nope,
anything.
we weren't talking about that. You didn't have to educate me on anything. You don't have to educate me on a topic that isn't what we're talking about. We had to tell him 3 times that we were talking about warrantless arrest, right? Afterwards, he finally got it on subject.
In which you
He
couldn't
tried to-
provide me the
he-
cases.
He tried to. I literally provided you a case.
No, you
I'm
didn't.
glad you. I did.
Damn.
Escobar-
Now I know why MAGA hosts don't.
So hold on,
Escobar
I'm
vs.
just curious,
Molona.
Tumblr, I'm curious. Are U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Immigration Customs Enforcement distinct agencies?
Yes.
Under okay, great.
Under
Do they
DHS,
often
yes.
hold on? Do they often corroborate or collaborate on immigration enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for proving my point. So,
No,
given the fact he was commander at large of the CBP specifically,
You're
he
not
was
gonna
allowed to
fill-
He wants to
collaborate
get-
with
he wants to
ICE,
get lost in
as
this.
specifically
Fuck
doing.
up.
That's
You're
what
not
happens.
gonna get the W.
So
I just
here's-
got the
so-
W, buddy.
You're
just
trying
got
to
the
here's
W.
the-
filibuster and avoid the point.
Okay.
You're trying to say, well, they work together.
They
Nobody's
collaborate, yes.
disputing that. The fact is, he had a separate title outside the norm, specifically in Minnesota, because his command was
What
under
was the
both
title?
Border Patrol and ICE. And you
Okay,
keep
where?
trying
Well,
to
hold
run
on. Where
away
was the
from it
okay? Hold
because
on.
you're a
Find
dumb
me, find Me
bitch.
find me who designated him the title Border Patrol and ICE. Find me
Donald
that,
fucking
please.
Trump. You
Donald
dumb
fucking
fuck.
no. Give me the actual written statement.
Go Google it because you need to research
Oh, exactly.
yourself.
So you can't
dumb
provide
fuck.
me the evidence. Thank you. That's another win. I'll
Can't
take
provide
another
me the
concession.
evidence.
One
That's
concession
a
from
win.
Scratch,
That's a
another
win. I'm
concession
gonna
from you.
put out
Thank
my
you.
profile.
Two concessions from both of
So
you guys now.
so
Thank you. I
there's been no
appreciate it.
concessions. So
Yeah, there
This
has
is
been
why
concessions.
MAGA doesn't come
You
to this
failed
country. This
to
is sad.
provide me with
You know
any
what's funny?
sources
So
I have
to-
no
with these
problem.
so
with
to
being
be-
scratched.
so-
these like
You
citizens
Okay.
being arrested
cannot be
and
able
being
to debate
detained
Scratch.
without
Matt,
probable
it's really
cause.
okay.
sad.
So wait. Okay, I just want to ask Matt. Matt, do you need a court case to determine if something is happening? A violation of the Constitution?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So for instance,
Yes.
Let's pretend that we have
Legally
we-
speaking, yes.
Okay, I'm just saying we're not. I'm saying not legally.
This is in
speaking.
reference to legality. If you
I'm
want to
saying,
say that
can we
something was-
determine-
if you want to say that something specifically
Mhm.
was a violation of the Constitution, then has to be a decision made by the courts. If you want to say that I believe it was, that's something different.
Well, I believe it's illegal. Okay. So for instance, Matt, let me just ask you a ridiculous hypothetical, right? Let's pretend that we have Donald Trump comes out on national TV. He says we're going to be violating the First Amendment. Fuck the First Amendment. Okay. He signs fuck the First Amendment in Executive Order 11.2. Federal marshals, everybody starts going out. Anybody who speaks negatively of the Trump administration start rounding up. We have thousands of videos. Everybody's admitting that it's a violation, but for some reason the courts never rule on it and nobody ever pursues any kind of case. Could I say that the First Amendment is being violated by the Trump administration?
Well, I mean, at that point, there would be no First Amendment because if you're saying the judicial branch is doing absolutely nothing to enforce the First Amendment,
aren't
the
doing
First
it.
Amendment doesn't exist.
The First Amendment does exist
Like, you
as a
literally-
concept.
you literally
as
said the
a
courts make no
concept, as a
decision
concept,
to
as a
rule on
concept, as a concept, the First Amendment does exist. It's just being violated.
Okay, as a concept, but again, I don't believe
Okay,
that law.
so, yeah,
I
so-
don't believe
so-
it. Hold on. This is where me and you disagree. I don't believe that law is law under concept or under theory. Law is law only if enforceable, right? The same way that, like, for example, if I randomly were to get an island and buy it off of the coast of like North America, for example, and declare it to be a state and declare like a bunch of like weird laws on that island, those laws have no enforcement mechanism. They are not recognized, and therefore they aren't real laws. So I believe concept means nothing. There is no concept of the First
But that
Amendment.
is it-
There
that-
is the legal writing and the enforcement mechanism. Without enforcement, there is no law.
Okay, so you're saying if the amendments aren't being enforced, then there isn't a law, and so at that point you wouldn't really care.
No,
Or
it's not
would
that
you?
I really wouldn't care. I'm just saying there would be no First Amendment.
Okay,
is
but
no
there would be
enforcement
the law.
mechanism for
The First Amendment as a law would be being violated. Then
There is no law without enforcement mechanism.
I don't
already
think
told you that.
that's okay. Well, the
How can you
enforcement,
have laws
the
if there's not-
enforcement,
if
the
there's no,
enforce,
like-
the
How can
enforcement,
you have laws if there's no
the
subsequent
enforcement, the enforcement, the
retaliation
enforcement,
for,
the
like,
enforcement, the
impeding
enforcement
on the law, right?
But, okay, the enforcement mechanism isn't there. It's hypothetical. Let's make it more ridiculous because we're already there. But people just aren't pursuing case. People
You can't have law without an enforcement mechanism.
There's enforcement mechanism, but people aren't pursuing cases, so there's no one's ruling on it.
Well, then you could say that, like, in theory, it would be against the First Amendment.
It'd be a
Like, in the
violation of the
theory
First
the
Amendment.
concept of the First Amendment, sure.
It would be a violation of the First Amendment then. So we have the
No,
enforcement
no,
mechanism.
you-
People aren't pursuing cases, so people aren't pursuing cases, so nothing's being ruled on by the courts, right? Right. where everybody's openly saying this is a violation,
I
and the
don't think
administration is taking a violation of the
I
First
don't think
Amendment.
that. Well, it wouldn't even be necessarily. That wouldn't even necessarily follow. People don't have to pursue cases in order for the Supreme Court to make a decision or to issue an injunction on the actions.
Yeah, they'd have to have somebody would have to like claim damages at least. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think the Supreme Court could probably unilaterally issue an injunction on what they're doing before cases are specifically brought.
How do you
forward.
get it to a wait? How do you issue an injunction? How does that work?
The Supreme Court could probably open up a case on what would be going on. I think that's possible.
How do you open up a case?
Or like rule, they could make a ruling on specifically.
This was like what? By the way, this is what Mr. Somario was talking about with the nationwide injunctions. That if people aren't bringing cases or if people aren't appealing up to the Supreme Court, they're not going to hear it. That's just how that shit works,
Well,
right?
I mean, well,
so if you're not making a case, so wait, Matt, just admit the fact. Just admit the fact. This is so simple. If there's plentiful, Matt, and I know Matt, you don't want to concede this point because this is really dumb, right? In this ridiculous hypothetical world, you can't even concede if there's an enforcement mechanism, but people aren't using that enforcement mechanism, and it's pretty, and there's literally completely over, and there's beyond a reasonable, and there's beyond a reasonable doubt that there's violations happening.
You can't reach that conclusion without courts, though. That's the thing. Like beyond
the courts exist.
Why you have
the courts exist. People aren't using them.
No. So again, beyond a reasonable doubt is specifically in reference to criminal law. That's what beyond a reasonable doubt is. So if you're saying that the courts aren't making any decision, how could you possibly reach a conclusion of beyond a reasonable doubt? It's only a decision the court could make.
Matt,
you keep making categories.
Okay, as a factual statement, Matt, if I go over to your house and I murder you, but the courts never catch me, did I murder you?
Well, yes, you would have killed me unjustifiably in theory. But
is the action that I did illegal?
You wouldn't officially. Hold on. You wouldn't be officially a murderer until you would be, for example, arrested. There would be a trial, and you would be convicted. When you're convicted, we can call you a murderer, and then a court obviously would have to convict you.
Wait, so I'm not. So if I murder somebody but don't get caught, I'm not a murderer.
Require a court again.
Okay, so wait, Matt, just real quick. So you, under this view of yours, you would say that illegal immigrants aren't illegal because the court hasn't determined them to be illegal yet and removed.
When we say illegal immigrants are illegal immigrants, it's another way of saying undocumented. It falls under the same concept.
No, when we say When we say illegal, when we say
concept. No, this is very important.
No. When you say illegal, as in law against, as in ill of the law, as in ill of the law, illegal.
That's synonymous with undocumented.
Illegal. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, that's why you're wrong.
No, it's not. It's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. So, for instance, somebody could be undocumented. Somebody can be undocumented, but not illegal. You understand that, right? So, like, if the president, if the president was declared, let's pretend the president declares all Somalians. If the president declares all Somalians if the president declares all Somalians to have TPS, and there's a Somalian here in the U.S. illegally,
but they're documented. They're documented though.
No, that Somalian, you need to apply for TPS. That Somalian is protected under TPS,
obviously.
But they are protected under TPS.
Again, it depends on how you use the term undocumented, right? Hold on.
So they're illegal documented immigrants.
Hold on. It depends on how these. It depends on how these.
But when somebody what is it? Wait, Matt.
Hold on. Let me
Matt,
get in your.
What does illegal mean? Matt, what does illegal mean? Matt, what does illegal mean? What does illegal mean?
You made an error. You made an error again. So, for example, when we're talking about undocumented, this can refer to many different things. Typically, when we're talking about undocumented people, we're talking about people who just crossed the border.
We're not talking typically.
And they are part of. Hold on. Just stop. You use the term undocumented. Just stop for a second. I'll teach you. Typically, when we're referring to the term undocumented, we're talking about people who crossed the border or had an encounter and were got away, right? So they're in the country and we don't know of them. There is no case about them because they haven't applied for asylum or anything, right? There is no case around them. So those would be undocumented. If there is someone who applied for TPS, they have work authorization in America, they have to continuously renew their TPS status, they are documented. Even if, for example, their TPS status is removed, it's not that they're undocumented. We still have them in the system. We still know who they are. They are still documented typically because we know that when they came in the country, we vetted them. But their legal status has been revoked. See, there's a difference also between documentation and legal status being revoked.
The problem, if we want to be specific, we can, but we can't be switching between typically and colloquially all the time, right? So if somebody says illegal immigrant, when you say illegal, you're saying ill of the law, as in against the law. You're not saying typical.
Yeah, we're
right?
talking about
wait.
Yes,
we're not talking. Okay, so you agree that when Mega says these people are illegal immigrants, they can't actually say that because the court hasn't ruled on that. That's not true. They aren't illegal.
No. So it's again in reference to theory. So when we're saying that people are illegal, by the way, it's not like we're ever referring to a specific person every single time, right?
the way that would be determined typically would be with the court, or the individual, like if they lack to provide any evidence, and let's say they were just caught like right near the border, so extradited removal will, like, for example, follow, right? When we're talking about someone being an illegal immigrant, we're typically talking about someone who probably violated 8 U.S. Code 1325, and they came here without proper documentation, and they broke our basic federal immigration law. That's why we call people illegal. But again,
okay, so you're saying it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad. Okay, so when somebody makes a statement about this administration broke this constitutional right, it's okay. That can also mean they probably did this. That's a fine statement to
That's
make.
not a court decision. That's the commentary.
Okay, but you just admitted. You just admitted that you're. You just admitted. You just admitted that. No, you just admitted that your own side. You just admitted. You just admitted. You just admitted.
When we say that someone is illegal, or when someone, for example, like let's say that someone killed your mom or whatever, and then you call them a murderer, you scream at them. They haven't been convicted, but you still call them a murderer. That is more commentary of people observing the scene and observing the situation. That is not legal. That doesn't hold any legal precedent, right?
If you see them unjustified.
Do you agree that there's a difference between like official court rulings and decisions and people making commentary decisions?
Yes,
or, like,
there's a difference. There's a difference.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yes, there's a difference.
You've been absolutely destroyed. Yes. Thank you for the conversation.
Nope. You can determine if something is illegal outside the law. Or sorry, sorry. Now you can determine if something's illegal outside of a court's decision. If I see somebody, if I know this person, I see them murder or this person, I see all this evidence, I see like tons and tons of videos of them committing the murder, but for some reason, right, there's some kind of jury nullification that goes on, and the court rules I will still be able to call them under the law as applies legally a murderer, just because the court doesn't make that determination.
This goes back to one of our first arguments with John Galt talking about that.
It really does.
It just goes back to that how MAGA doesn't believe something can happen unless it's been adjudicated in by
a court. Right? Yeah.
Like I there's no way I could have.
Well, it's still
There's no way I could have said the word yes today because it's never been adjudicated in court, even though you just heard me say it. Like, it's all fucking stupid.
What was your guys' original disagreement?
Did you kick him?
No, he left.
No, he left.
He ran.
He's a runner. He's a track star.
Wait, what was the original disagreement? Like, what was the plan?
I just said that, like, ICE was doing Fourth Amendment violations.
What was his point?
He then brought up. I said Fourth Amendment violations. He brought up warrants. We had to correct him because he didn't know what the conversation was. Get him back on track to warrants. He then asked me like, "Okay, how's this happening?" I brought reasonable suspicion. We then took a long time for him to actually answer the question about the fact that doing arrest based on reasonable alone is like invalid. We then brought up the Greg Bovino quote that said that they were only doing arrests based on reasonable suspicion, and then he asked me for a court case. I gave him the court case. He said the court case wasn't a final judgment. I said that I don't need a final judgment to prove that this is like almost certainly happening, and that somebody who's overseeing ICE operations, like in Minnesota, and this high level authority, if they're saying it, right, and they're the ones who are literally in charge of it, and at the same time we have like these court cases which they're siding with the plaintiffs, then I can make that determination. And then he said that, oh, well, Greg Bovino got suspended for it. And I was like, well, you can't really make this determination. So it was a lot.